Local. Record. Hey, this is Dave. It's the Home Server Show, episode number 234, recorded on August the 21st, 2013. Welcome back to the Home Server Show. I'm your host, David McCabe. Jim is a little under the weather. He was a game time decision, and he's on the bench tonight, guys. We're gonna give him the night off to let him get better for some of that average guy action on Thursday night. But I have our quarterly SBS. I don't know if I should call it. I always call it State of the Union, but whatever I call it, it's the SBS Diva, Susan Bradley. How are you doing tonight, Susan?
I'm doing good.
Very good. So I'm late as usual. I'm having camera troubles as usual. So hopefully we pull this thing off. But I got you here. I always ask State of the Union because I always want to know kind of what's going on in the inside as much as humanly possible that I can get from another MVP. I want to know what's going on in the inside, and it's most important now because I'm not on the team anymore. I was traded.
Yes, you were, and congrats for that.
Well, thank you.
You're still an MVP, yes.
Speaking of, I got this in the mail. Hopefully,
cool.
Hopefully everybody can see that. This is the 5-year gemstone.
You got a donut.
So, you guys, can you see that? 5 years
Has
now.
it been 5 years? Wow, doesn't seem possible.
Okay, so I can reach back here at on my I Love Me wall. So I think you're just supposed to put one up there, but I was going to try to stack as high as I could.
I stack them. Yep.
There we go.
It's like, what is that game? Jenga?
It's Jenga.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Jenga. So I know you're out there counting, and I didn't want anybody to think I was messing with your head. So 2009 is here. The rest are over here. So.
Yes, you two got the year that they decided to go with a different vendor, and they switched them, and you're like, okay, but I got this one, and now you got that one.
They got smart, didn't they? The subsequent years, we just have to buy little donuts. So, I thought this was neat. Came in a little case, little 5-year award. Very nice. Yes, I switched over to the Windows Consumer Expert team. So I'm either an expert in Windows or an expert in consumers. I don't know which. I consume a lot these days.
You consume a lot.
All right, this is episode number 234. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, you can catch us on YouTube, youtube.com/Home Server Show. You can follow me at Home Server Show, and you can follow Susan at SBSDiva.
Yep.
She's the SBS Diva. I know you more on mailing lists. That's how I communicate with you. But a lot of the folks don't get that information. But you are the SBS Diva. You've got so much knowledge just stored in probably one little pinky that there's no way we're going to get to it all tonight. So we're going to try. Now I want to start out with just 2 little tidbits of news for everybody out there. We had a great time in the forums this past week, and I also want to tell you about a. Let me get this link for the guys in the chat. Over at I got a guy I know over mostly on Surface Geeks in Australia, techau.com. I think it's .au. Let me see.
Yeah, when you're outside of the United States, they say, put a whatever country code.
Right.
So it's the country code.
So Jason Cartwright, he's a Windows developer, and he wrote a cool article on how to install Server Essentials 2012 R2 on an EX490. So he's gone all the way back to his version 1 days and got that top-of-the-line hardware from a MediaSmart server line and put Essentials R2 on it, and I will put that in chat, and that'll also be in the show notes. I'm not going to go in depth about it, but you can read his article and give him a follow on Twitter. He's always tweeting good stuff. If you're an Australian, Rennie, I know I've seen you on his site. If you're an Australian, you definitely want to follow.
And it's Jason. One of the things for everybody playing around with the preview, the R2 preview. it's a little bit like, gee, how come I can't get this installed on fill in the blank hardware? And there's some drivers and things coming out from some of the vendors. Even on some of the newer pieces of hardware like the Gen 8, I know has some drivers coming out for that. So it's kind of, you go and you get your nice shiny new box and you get your nice shiny R2 beta stuff and you stick them together and you go, oh, okay, that doesn't quite work the way I thought it would. So don't
Right.
worry, they're working on some of the drivers and those are coming out. So
Yes, I'm going to beat you up about that later, and
yes.
hopefully we won't bloody you too much. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about. The other thing I want to mention before we get really boogie in here on essentials is there was I put a blog post out on homeservershow.com today. The HP Gen 8, as you had mentioned earlier, has a brand new color kit option, and you can get let's see, cherry red, like a blueberry blue, and a black, which surprisingly you wouldn't think black would look cool, but the faceplate on the Gen 8 microserver comes in silver, and now they give you a black option, which looks really cool. Head out to the blog and check that out, and that was dropped in our forums from a guy out there participating in the forums and gave us kind of a cool news drop. I think this thing just hit the market because even the HP website, if you try to go buy it, I tried to buy it this morning and I couldn't select a color. So I could buy it, but I couldn't select a color. So I don't know what would have happened. So it's kind of cool. Let me see. I'll click through the online store again. Bezel, faceplate kit, add to cart. I should do this on video so you guys can see. I can't get it. I don't see how I can do it. So brand new, $69 to pick a brand new color for your Gen 8. Excuse me, microserver. I don't have a cough button. I need a cough button.
You need to mute for cough.
That was a hack button that I needed right there. I guess the other thing, Susan, I definitely went to the dark side this past week. And I blame it on a fella in our forums, Tony Rayner. You know who you are, Tony. and what you did this time. Last week, I was complaining about these guys got me to buy all this stuff for my microserver, my N54L. Tony put out a link for an Acer recertified Chromebook for $129.
Wow.
Acer was selling them themselves on eBay. I purchased it on Thursday. It arrived, let's see, on Monday. And I've been playing with it ever since. And I'll switch over to it on the gear cam. Here it is. Let me. So that's a handy look right there, isn't it? But let me show you the chromeness of it. And lo and behold, on the side, VGA, Ethernet, HDMI out, which I've already tried to do HDMI in on my video box, and it didn't work. So I have to get a new capture card. My capture card's a piece of junk. On the other side, a couple of more, that's a little dark, guys, a couple of more USBs and headphone out. So let's put this thing under the test. We're going to lift the lid and see how fast she can come up. And I'm following the Woot off at woot.com. You can see here, but you can open a new browser window, get into Google. Now, you can minimize that. You got your desktop here. And down here on the bottom, you have a little, like a little start menu. You can hit this button here for apps. And it's not really apps. It's like tabs. But like you can install a solitaire app, but it opens in a tab in Chrome. So, I mean, you could do it the long way, but you know, if you install a game or something, a utility, it's easier to do it here in the here in this thing. So, you know, I started Outlook, SkyDrive, Evernote. I've been doing that. There's a little calculator, TweetDeck. So I'm running all my Twitter
Social
stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty handy. There's a couple of times where I've found myself like, oh, I just need this little thing or this little app or OneNote. I found OneNote to be very difficult to use. I really didn't goof around. Outlook.com works pretty well. I opened a web document as well and was able to create a Word doc or whatnot. So so far $129. This is a bonus. I think it's an 11.6 inch screen. So everything works good. I'm happy with the purchase. I thought I would play with it, tell you guys about it, and then sell it. Like that's usually what I do. That's what I did with the Iconia W3. And I'm going to wait one more time on this thing, and I need to get a new HDMI capture card on my server and run the Chromebook out and see if I can do Hangouts and bring HDMI into what I'm broadcasting video. It's a mess, Susan. Don't even try to understand my brain.
Don't try this at home.
That's what I want to do with it, and if that works, then I keep it. If that doesn't work, it's out of here. So I literally think that I could create the utopia that I'm looking for, which is we're calling Hangout-asaurus. So several different boxes that can spit out HDMI, PCs, when I say boxes, that can spit out HDMI, and then I can capture that HDMI on my PC and show that video live to a live audience. And the only way to do that is to have a PC with HDMI out, and that's expensive.
Yeah,
if I can do it for $129. Now this deal is over. It's at $169 now. But even at that price point,
that's still not bad.
Yeah, that's cheaper than the $225 that you can get it at the store. This thing has a 320 gig hard drive, and you can pop the bottom cover and throw in an SSD. If you love it that much, you can upgrade the RAM to 4 gig, and then throw in an SSD, and it would be zippy. I Chromecasted with it. Behind me on the TV, there is a Chromecast receiver from Google, and it Chromecast just fine. It did say that it was having problems, like there's not a whole lot of processor in this thing. It's a little Celeron. So far, so good. My mini review is in the forums, homeservershow.com. You can read that, and I'll keep you up to date.
Cool.
Okay. Got Susan Bradley, the SBS Diva, and we're going to talk. We've got roughly 30 minutes. We can talk essentials. Now, I brought you here. I want to talk R2, but I know that there was an update roll-up, so don't let me forget that.
Well, the update roll-up 3 isn't officially out yet. It's just in beta testing, so it's not officially out. But there's some things in it that will hit, I think, earlier than R2 will, that they put in R2 as well. And one of the biggie issues in that one, I'll hit one topic, and it'll be both on R2 and update roll-up 3, is that DNS issue. And if you hear DNS, you know probably exactly what I'm talking about. Because in Essentials, it requires you to domain join. So you've got your boxes, and you domain join them, and then you unhook them, and you go someplace else. And you try to connect to the internet, and sometimes that connection won't release. You know how that thing is where it won't let go of the DNS, and you have to fiddle with it, and you have to disable and re-enable, and then you have to jump through all these hoops to get it to not be the DNS controller. So what they're doing in Update Rollup 3, and I'll roll down here so I make sure I get it right, there is a skip auto DNS detection registry that will go both on the server as well as on the client side, and this is going to be in Update Rollup 3 for Essentials 2012, and it'll be built into R2. It is not in the preview right now, so if you go look for these registry keys, they're not going to be there, and it's not going to work. But basically, you can put registry keys in to say, forget that thing, I'm going to do my own DNS setup, let me handle it, I know what I'm doing, back off. Basically. Okay. So it's a registry key that will be HKLM software, Microsoft, Windows Server, networking, server discovery, quote, skip auto DNS server detection equals true. That will be on the client managed by Essentials. And then you'll do a skip auto DNS config dword of 001. All of this will be in the release notes for both R2 and the update rollup 3.
Okay.
But again, that's something that's bothered, if you always connect to Essentials, then you usually don't see this. But if you have a workstation that is wired to Essentials and then it gets unconnected and goes wireless, sometimes that little network connection will go, where's my DNS? And it'll freak it out, and you have to like disable and re-enable to get it to connect up like it should.
Yeah, that's a mess. And you think that's going to hit? See, I don't want to mess up any NDA if you have it on
I
update
don't
rollup
know
3,
when
because
update
I wasn't
rollup.
sure.
Yeah, I don't know when update rollup 3 will come out. I don't know that for certain. I expect it, like when they give it for us to testing, it's in the final stages. And then it's just a matter that it's not going to come out on the second Tuesday of the month. They just don't usually put those update rollups that are not security related on the second Tuesday, so then therefore it's going to be on the fourth Tuesday. And then it's just a matter of when do they get all of their sign-offs and everything's ready to go, which fourth Tuesday. So if it doesn't make this month, then look for it probably next month, and we'll let you know. What they do is on the Thursday before the Tuesdays, they post out there what's going to be published.
Okay.
So there's this, if you Google on WSUS content KB, you'll hit, in fact, let me look at it because I can't remember the KB number.
WSUS content.
And you'll get KB 894199, and on the Thursday before the second and fourth Tuesday, they will list out there what updates are going to be coming out. And they don't put the details, and they don't put the links out there, so you can't, sometimes you can't figure out what exactly. You just know KB something 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 is going to be coming out. But especially when they're Essentials based, they'll say, update rollup such and such for Essentials, and you're like, it's coming out next Tuesday. So if you watch there the Thursday before, then you'll see if it's coming out the following Tuesday.
Okay.
So again, it's not going to come out second Tuesday. It'll come out the fourth Tuesday, and then whether or not they hit the end of this month or the end of next month. So I don't know which one they're going to hit. Now, as to R2, when it's going to hit the streets, they've actually officially said that. People may not realize that, but R2 is going to be officially in October because it's now a role as well as a SKU. It's going to be coming out with its big brother with R2 on the server. So in October is when it's going to come out for everybody.
Yeah, so that's tied to 8.1, that's tied to everything. Yeah. October 18th, is it?
Yeah, the bad news on that is, there's a lot of confusion out in the marketplace because people have heard, 8.1 is free. So is R2 free? Ain't free. The Server 2012 R2 is not a free upgrade. You will have to pay for that. And then also, too, especially on Essentials, people are going, well, is that an in-place upgrade? Of course not. Never is going to be easy, is it? That one is going to be a lovely migration, especially with domain. You're going to have to, undo the workstations and connect it to the new one.
That's a pain in the butt.
Pain in the rear.
Let me ask you. Okay, so you're out there in the trenches. Is R2 enough for some of these admins to do all this work, to rip this out and install?
It's going to be, for me anyway, it's going to be one of those things where you need to decide kind of, if your client needs or you need something right now today and you can't wait until October, then I'd say go with 2012 plain. Some of the things that R2 gives that may or may not be important to people. So here's the thing that R2 brings to the table that is not included in 2012. So R2 brings what I'm going to call glue, Office 365 glue. Right now, the plain 2012 has Office 365 password syncing glue between Essentials and the Exchange part, the email part. R2 brings in glue between email and also SharePoint. So before, if you had SharePoint, that was kind of like the thing that didn't kind of get synced up. Now it will. So it's going to bring in a link to that remote web access page into there so you can hook into SharePoint as well. Again, that may or may not be a biggie for a lot of people. So, up to you. Probably the biggest news and the biggest change, and again, this may not be a big thing for people, is now Essentials is going to be a role as well as a SKU. So
yeah, we've talked about that a little bit, and it's everybody just does that little dog head tilt, like what?
Okay,
What?
so you've got, if you go out to Windows Server 20, I'm going to say it right, Windows Server 2012 R2, got to get it right. So you download and install that, a plain 2012 R2 server. Okay. There's a brand new role wizard on there called the Essentials Experience role. Whoever thinks of these names should be shot. So in that little box, when you click that button and you say, I want to have the Essentials Experience role, what it does is it starts the wizard, and it first goes and it says, okay, do I see a domain controller, or am I a domain controller already? And if it doesn't see a domain controller in the network, it will make itself a domain controller. So this thing still needs to be a DC. It can't be a work group, unfortunately.
It's going to make the 2012 server.
It can, if
right
it sees another domain controller in the network. So think in terms of like the Windows Storage Server Essentials R2. You remember that little SKU funky thing?
Correct, yes.
That could be added to a domain.
Correct.
And it would provide you with client backup and the RWA onto an existing non-SBS domain. Okay. So a lot of people brought it into a slightly bigger network. That's what you can do now with this Essentials Experience role. So you've got an existing domain, and you want to add client backup, and you want to add a remote web access, but you don't want to undo anything you've done on your existing domain. You bring in a 2012 normal server, you add this Essential Experience role, it goes through and it says, oh, okay, I got a domain controller over there. I'll add myself in. I will set myself up as this remote web access server. I'll set myself up with client backup. Now here's the bad news on all of this. Okay, you and I are all used to never ever buying what's called remote desktop CALs. So we're in a world where
we've been shielded from that.
Like, what are those things?
Yeah.
We don't have to have that because we are under 25, and in SBS and in Essentials and in Home Server, they gave us the out. They said as long as you're running those SKUs, you don't need this remote desktop CAL because you're only accessing your desktops remotely through this website and nothing else. Well, you get to Server 2012 R2 and they don't give us that get out of jail free card. We now have to buy our decals.
Is it as loaded as an experience on Server 2012?
You get the same
only, or
no, I mean it's the client backup, it's the remote web access, it's the password syncing up to Office 365. It does not limit itself to 25 users. So what this is geared for is the larger, above 25 users, and they're trying to go up the food chain, as I'm going to call it, to larger firms. They want to hook more people into Office 365, and they know that the password syncing is a big problem. They know that, like, normally in big server land, you would do something called Active Directory Federation Services, and it's a pain in the you-know-what, and requires multiple servers and all this headache. So what they're trying to do is make that password syncing process easier for the kind of medium down to the small businesses without having the extra overhead of all this ADFS stuff. So they're trying to grow it up the food chain.
You're going to get all those services for your enterprise.
Yeah.
But you have to buy the CALs.
You have to buy the CALs, and you have to buy the remote desktop CALs. I mean, I was joking. I mean, if you want to run a data center, granted it's now, what, $6,000? So, I mean, the price tag jumped up. Yeah. Hey, if you plunk down $6,000 and you can run an Essentials, that home server backup, and you got it in your data center edition.
Wow, that's impressive. So, okay, I'm a small business admin. I just want to install Essentials 2012.
And the SKU is still there. Yep. The SKU is still there. And if you buy just the SKU, you won't need the CALs. So all of that
my 25. I'm still in my bubble. I'm protected.
You're still in your bubble. You're still protected. Yeah.
All I need.
Yeah.
Right there.
So they're still going to do that. They're doing like two. They're doing what I call medium to big server side, and then still doing that SKU, that 25 user SKU.
Okay. So yeah, let me scale it back down to I'm the small business guy. Now there's been a lot of confusion on R2 about the initial install and a virtual like configuration or a virtual machine.
Mm-hmm.
Run me through that whole scenario, because what we initially heard is that upon installation you could choose to instantly create a virtual environment.
That, okay. So here's my rant for the day. You ready for the SBSDiva rant?
I'm just gonna sit back here, Susan. I'll be over here.
Are you ready? Okay, stand back. Okay. So when you and I both heard this, okay, there's going to be this virtual SKU that you can, you as the admin, and when I hear admin, and I'm sure you're the same, I'm a small business server. I control a lot of things at the office, and I'm the admin of the office. And when I hear they say, an admin can do this, that means, hey, I can do this. Well, that's not true for their virtualization solution, I'll be honest with you. So what they are going to do is they're going to have this PowerShell script that they're handing off to the OEMs. It is not a do-it-yourself virtualization, in my opinion. It is something that they're going to preload on HP and Dell boxes. What they're preloading this for is primarily they're doing this to get ready for all this Azure and the Hyper-V backup and all of the Hyper-V replication. So they're putting in place some foundation blocks that I don't think originally, I don't think as in October when this releases, I think we're all going to go, huh? But I think this is going to showcase what can happen and what it's going to do in time. I think give it a few months for the Azure pieces to kick in, and we're all going to go, oh, okay. But it's not something that you and I can do on a DIY situation. This is something you'll buy from HP or you'll buy from Dell, and there'll be a little checkbox on the lovely website to say, I want it virtualized. And their HP or Dell then is going to load this on a server, and what they're going to do is they're going to put it on a server and be virtualized. Now, I personally, this is where I disagree strongly with Microsoft, but of course they don't listen to me, so hey, you know how far that goes. When I do virtualization in my office, I do it because I want something else on that server. I buy a bigger server than I would normally buy, and then I want something else on that box as well. Even if it's a test instance, there's a reason I'm doing virtualization. I don't just do a one virtualization instance. The EULA for this virtualization is you only get the right to virtualize this unit and nothing else. So if you've got a reason to do a virtual Windows 7 or a virtual Windows 8 or something else on that same thing, you will legally not be able to do it on that OEM virtualization SKU, which I think is not the way to do it. Because I think the reason why you're picking virtualization in the first place is you want to put something else on that box. Now, they're doing it because they want to put in place and get the foundation ready for an Azure Hyper-V backup and an Azure Hyper-V replica. Because it's easier for them to make backups and replicas when Azure is hooking into a Hyper-V. So they're putting some building blocks in place. Okay. Which right now you kind of go, you're scratching your head going, what are they doing? And why can't I put something else on that box? And because we haven't seen it to test it out, I don't think you're going to know. I think people are going to put another virtual machine on there and not realizing they're violating a EULA, because you and I both know that, number one, nobody reads the EULAs. Number two, they're written by attorneys, and you go, huh? The first part says to the party the second part, and you read all these things and you go, what did they just say? I don't think anybody is going to realize that this OEM virtualization will only allow you to put it and nothing else, and I think you're going to load up another virtual machine on there and not realizing that you're violating a EULA.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's hard to understand, but then again, it makes sense what they're doing.
Yeah. like I said, basically they're putting building blocks in place to get ready for Azure hooks into their cloud. Cloud backups, cloud replicas, cloud Hyper-V replicas, all sorts of things. So that's where what they're doing for it.
Well, and that's an exciting time, honestly. I mean, you said the keyword there, the Azure things and building blocks. I think that was a good keyword, building blocks for future. You know.
And you know, if you play around, if you've done any kind of you can actually sign up for, I think, a $200 credit for the first month and $100 after that. There's like 3 months, I think, credits you can do if you want to play around with the Azure platform. If you go up there right now, there's a Server 2012 R2 virtual machine that you can install. And when you install that machine, sure enough, there's a Windows Essentials Experience role. So if you want to put a remote web access totally hosted on Azure, it is entirely possible to do that. Granted that, you know, we have to wait for R2 to RTM and all that, but you can see where they're heading on this, where if you want to run a virtual, you know, Essential server up on Azure, it's going to be possible in the future.
Wow, that's a mess. That's a mess. I'm just wrapping my head around all of this. It's wild. You know why? It's because I don't install for that base anymore. I find it hard to pick that server platform nowadays. It's few and far between for me. I've kind of scaled myself down to much smaller shops, but and you know, my home is bigger than some shops that I work for. So.
And well, speaking of small shops too, the Foundation 2012 R2 is still going to be in the SKU list. So if you want a 15 user, no CALs, OEM only. It does not have the Essentials features, so it doesn't do the RWA, it doesn't do the client backup, but if you just want a plain old file and print server, again, one of those kind of building block kind of things, the Foundation SKU is still in the lineup for R2.
Yeah, file and print services for 15 and under, right?
Yep.
No cows. Back in the box.
No, back, same, where that 15 user hit, you know, 15 and under, no cows.
Now, will that...
Look for the OEM.
Will that do one of your favorite keywords to a bigger server? And that transmog?
You can do it. You can do an in-place upgrade. It doesn't use the same name. Okay. They don't use the same word, but you can do an in-place upgrade from Foundation to the bigger SKUs if you wanted to. Okay. So, and also too, I mean, to let people know that it's right now to migrate between 2012 R2 Essentials from plain 2012 to the R2 is a very painful migration process. I would not recommend it to my worst enemy. So it's one of those things where, you know, decide what you want to do and either wait for R2 to come out, or if you know you need something right now, go ahead and get the 2012. They know that in the future, I mean, Microsoft knows this up and down the food chain that they have to get an in-place upgrade back again. You know, back in many, many years ago, if people are familiar with history of the SBS platform, you could do an in-place upgrade from SBS 4.5, I think it was, to SBS 2000. And then once we move from the 32-bit from the 64-bit, you couldn't do an in-place upgrade. Microsoft knows that to fix this, when they do go cloud, and when they do start hosting all this stuff in the cloud, they have to fix it for their own client base. I mean, they have to fix it for themselves. They cannot go through this painful migration process anymore. So this in-place upgrade has to come back. We're now in a kind of an awkward teenage stage where it's going to be painful. We're not in this fixed stage, so we can't do this in-place migration. And they know they've got to fix that solution for their own Azure cloud stuff as well as for us.
Yeah. That's crazy, Susan. That's crazy. You're gonna have to bring me back down to some some home stuff.
So let me do some not necessarily essentials, but let me do some home stuff for you.
Okay.
So let me get into some oddball tech news in the patching front, because one of the other things I do is I moderate for the patchmanagement.org listserver, and I also write on patches for windowsecrets.com.
Okay.
So a little bit back home that may impact some of your home people is 2 KBs. Number one is KB 2859537. That's a Windows kernel update. And you may have seen it talked about in the news, causing some blue screens of death and some freeze-ups. And the good news is I don't see too many blue screens of death. It's a really kind of a corner case on the blue screens of death. What we are seeing, and I'm unfortunately going to call people names, and I don't mean to. Well, let me call their operating system a name. Their operating system is probably pirated. If they are seeing a 0xC0000, hopefully I count the number of zeros right, 5 application freeze up, where they launch any 32-bit application and it says, sorry, can't launch this 0xC0005. There's a high probability that they have a pirated operating system.
Okay.
Now we've seen some people where, and it's sad when I see this, when somebody's taken a machine into a less than reputable IT consultant, and they get it back and they go, hey, it's fixed, and you go, but wait, I didn't have Windows 7 Pro before I had Windows 7 Home, and they go, oh, don't worry about it, and you go, yeah, okay, fine. Some less than reputable IT consultant shops who use less than reputable sources for their operating systems are being hit now with this lovely error. And what it is the kernel, the latest kernel update that came out in August, needs certain files in place. And when they have these bogus or pirated systems, they have pirated kernels in there basically. And so it's interfering with this patch. And so if you get this lovely freeze up, basically you're going to have to evaluate where you got your operating system, see if you've got a media from someplace, and see if you can do a repair install over the top, because you basically have a pirated kernel interacting with some of the patches coming out. So heads up on that. And the other one, and I'll have to look up the update KB number for this, is the Windows 8 August update rollup. If you install the August update rollup for Windows 8, and then you go out either in Google or Bing and you search for a store application, and it says, and you search, you use a normal search engine, you don't go inside the Windows Store, you find it in a search engine, and you go to launch the app, it says this app is no longer available, and you kind of go, huh? And if you uninstall the August update rollup, things work. You can search for apps in Google or Bing, and they'll go and install. So there's a little hiccup. There's something going on with that August update. Barb Bowman out on the Answers forum has been working with Microsoft to open up a case. They've got it reproed, and so right now we're in that initial stages where we're telling them, hey, we've got a problem. So they're reproing it internally now, and so it'll just take some time for that issue to get resolved. So okay. Just a heads up on that. If you kind of go, but wait, this used to work and now it doesn't, you're not alone. So that's in Windows 8. And then the next thing I want to bring up, because I think this will impact a lot of home server viewers, is does everyone know about TechNet subscriptions demise?
Everybody raise your hand out there.
Raise your hand out there.
We have yeah.
I think it's a really dumb idea on Microsoft's part, because if you want to drag our little fingers off of our on-premise machines and slowly wean us off into the cloud, I think cutting or killing off the entire subscription is not the way to go. Especially, I mean, they can say that, oh, but we have all these, 180-day evals. That doesn't help us when we're trying to do proof of concepts, migrating from older platforms up to cloud versions. Sorry, guys, this ain't gonna cut it. I think it's close to 10,000 signatures right now on the change.org petition. We've been talking to Microsoft people. Every day that goes by, my hopes that they will come back and say, oh, we screwed up, keeps dropping and dropping and dropping.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a perspective from a guy who started a niche blog and a niche podcast about a little server, little guy about this tall, called Windows Home Server. Yeah, yank. And they threw us a little bone with Windows Home Server 2011. Said, here's a nice little replacement, yank. And so now I started a little Surface Geeks action, right? So yeah, we had a little write down of about $900,000.
So you're the reason for that.
I
Yes.
think
Okay.
I may be the reason. TechNet is not coming back because I like it and I want it. So there you go. It's not.
So you're the jinx.
I'm
Okay.
the jinx.
So is there any other product or program that you like that we
Yeah, I'm
should
gonna
like
start an SBS blog.
Well, I have news for you, dear.
No,
I already did that one, so yes.
I'm not. I'm staying away. I'm staying
Yes.
away. Okay, I'll do everybody a favor. I'll start another Apple blog.
There you go.
Okay.
But if you
yeah,
haven't signed the petition, if you haven't
change.org.
expressed your, send an email to Steve B, STEVEB at Microsoft.com. I will warn you that please do not say. There's literally been some people that have emailed Steve B and said things like, "Oh yeah, you know, somebody shared a TechNet subscription with me." Try not to say things like that. I mean, you know, because that reinforces the fact that there's piracy.
Why they're
going
killing
on
it? Yeah, we want to. Hey,
like,
you're an actual
yes
enthusiast, and you know, small business owner, and yeah.
And that's the
you
thing
need
that
this
I'm.
tool.
You know,
it's a tool.
The thing that pains me to see this is two areas where we really are going to just kind of go, I don't have anything for you. Number one is the proof of concepts going from older legacy stuff. I mean, they can say, oh, we've got all these wonderful evals. You don't have an eval for SBS 2003, dear. So if somebody wants media to do a proof of concept migrating from, you know, or home server 2003, how to do a proof of concept, migrating from something old to something new. You don't have those legacy products, dudes. The other thing that pains me is people to this day will come into the forums and say, you know, I'm trying to do we're trying to reinstall SBS 2008 for a client. The media is totally scratched up or they can't find it. And especially in SBS 2008 and 2011, they used retail media throughout all of the SKUs. So if you downloaded it from TechNet, MSDN, volume license, retail, you name it, it was exactly the same media. All you need was your key code. So somebody comes into the forum and say, hey, I've got the product key code. I don't need the product key code, but I need media. And right now I can say, hey, you know, if you're a partner and you have Action Pack, activate your TechNet licenses because you can go download that SBS 2008 and 2011 from there, and they go, hey, great, thank you, solved my problems. When they shut down TechNet, we're going to be stuck. We're not going to have a way that people can get old media for old products.
Yeah, because nobody uses legacy products for decades, do they?
Yes, of course not. As I say here, and I have SBS. I have SBS 2008 myself in my office.
I know some 2003 installs.
Yeah.
They run.
So
yeah, so people don't want to mess with it.
Yes. So that kind of not forward-thinking stuff is just driving me crazy. And I've talked to them about it, and they do realize that the legacy story is not good, especially in the eval media. And I'm hoping that they will come back with some kind of bone throwing over the fence. We'll see on that. But like I said, as each day goes by and they're quiet and silent, my hopes keep going that way.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I completely understand. And I don't think, honestly, I don't think it's going to happen.
The only thing I can say is just email what you can. You know, email your thoughts and email as much as you can, because especially on that eval and especially on the legacy stuff, I mean, we don't have a good story for the legacy stuff.
You guys, can you read the chat? Vinyl Freak. One of my PCs at work still uses Windows 98. Wow. Seriously, 98. That is wrong.
You know, April next year, April 8, 2014, everyone knows that a couple of things are going to occur. Number one, XP goes off of official support, so it will no longer get security updates. And my concern is that a lot of people go, oh, it's like Y2K, nothing will happen. You know, what's going to happen on May 2014 is we're going to be going out to the security people and go, hey, you know, that patch that just came out for Internet Explorer 9 and above, and it's not out there for 6 and 7 for XP, what's the impact? And we're going to have to listen to the security people to say whether or not we're going to be owned or not. So, you know, don't blow it off as, you know, and the thing is, I understand myself in my office, there's certain older programs. We have certain applications here that go back 10 or 20 years. And if a client comes in and needs we're a CPA firm in real life. And when somebody comes in and says, I haven't filed a tax return in 10 years, I have to turn on that old XP and run the old 10-year-old tax returns off of that machine. Because 10 years ago, nothing was 64-bit. So I, too, will have a Windows XP on April 9th, 2014. But that doesn't mean people should blow it off and say this is not a, oh, it's just like Y2K, it's no big deal. You need to go, okay, why do I have these XPs? If they're for a business reason, make sure I can isolate them, make sure I put, bogus proxy server or bogus DNS entries in the network connections so they can't get it to the internet anymore. Really think about what you're doing with those machines and kind of go, should I really be surfing on these machines? Because attackers are going to go, hey, field day on XPs. So you really want to decide why you have that machine and protect it a little bit better come April 9th, 2014.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of thoughts on this. Some of this is actually notes in my next Surface Geeks podcast here in 30 minutes. But I have some real intense ideas on what's going to happen. But yeah, everybody listening, go out to your grandma. Yeah.
If people go, hey, I hate that Windows 8. I can't stand the no start button, and it's not coming back in 8.1. $5, start 8. Greatest piece of software ever written. If you really hate the Windows 8 start menu, it puts the old menu back, and you can be a crusty old geek, and life is good.
Start 8. Stardock.com, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, it even runs on servers. I have it on servers because I'm an old crusty geek, and especially because a lot of my server 2012s I access them over RDP. And you cannot hit some of those charm buttons worth the darn over RDP.
It's hard. Yeah, I agree.
Hard, and I'm going like, where is this? And sometimes I just want to get on and get off, and so I literally have bought Start 8 for some of my server 2012 servers because I can't hit the reboot button. So.
Right. Okay, Susan, we're going to have to stop doing this quarterly.
Okay.
I'm going to have to hold you after work. Now, maybe I can cut you a break in the first quarter of the new year if you're a CPA and
yes, during tax season it's a little hard. Yes,
we may cut you some slack, but we cannot let 3 months go by before we have you out here again. And I will email you about that. I got some ideas for Home Server Show, but everybody, if you're looking to get some more information for Susan, absolutely get a Twitter account. I know a lot of you guys listening don't do Twitter. You should just do it to follow a few folks that you really want information from.
Okay, let me give you another way that you can follow me, okay? And this does not involve getting a Twitter account. And I'll put this in the show notes so you can post this out. Okay. So I do what I call Twitter lurking, okay? And Twitter keeps making it harder sometimes for me. So now I have to use this other guy's API on something. So Twitter used to have this ability that you could find the RSS feed for a Twitter account and follow somebody in Twitter via RSS feed.
Okay.
Now I have to use a third-party service because they keep making it a little bit harder. But what I do is inside my Outlook, I use a program called IntraV News. INTRAV News.
Like
intravenous? Intravenous, yes. And it has all of my RSS feeds for like, I have RSS feeds for various forums, so I don't have to go out to the forums. I follow the RSS feeds. I have RSS feeds for certain blogs, like the home server blogs and various different forums. And then I have what I call Twitter lurking. Various people that I follow on Twitter that I just follow the RSS feed. So in my IntraV News, inside my Outlook is all of these lovely Twitter accounts, and then whenever they post something, I don't have to have a Twitter account myself, even though I do have one, but I follow them in RSS rather than following them inside Twitter. So I don't have to do that follow thing. I can have it, because sometimes I like to have things in my own console, so it's in, how I consume it.
Right.
So I bring it inside of Outlook, so all of those Twitter RSS feeds are inside of there.
Wow. When I first started Twitter, I had a Windows mobile phone. So Windows, mobile, the old with the stick, you poke and start and run. And I had free incoming text. Text outgoing cost money. but incoming was free. And back then, you could have Twitter send you a text
when they
on
updated.
every tweet. I didn't follow many people, so it's crazy how far it has come, where I can literally watch my Twitter just go bing, 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 tweets just going and going and going because I follow all these folks. I could never do that in text messaging now. I could never do that. It would be all day and all night, just text, text, text. But interesting way. So RSS, we'll look for that in the show notes. But
Yep,
definitely,
I'll send you the information on how to do that. Because I
twerking.
also do.
It's been called twerking.
Twerking, okay.
Twerking.
Because I also do some that are not tech related at all. Like I have like Monty Don. I'm really into watching BBC gardening shows, and I use a UK proxy server so I can watch the iPlayer. So yes, don't tell BBC I do that. So I watch Gardener's World, and I watch.
Can't you get that on a Roku or something? I don't.
No, you can't.
No, you can't. Okay.
At least not that I have found that I'm safe and I feel, because I mean, some of the Gardening World stuff is up on BitTorrent, but I kind of like to go. Some of the BitTorrent things I stay away from. So.
Okay.
So what I do is I purchase. I have a subscription to a UK proxy server site, and so then in Opera or Firefox you can put in a different proxy server, and you authenticate against them, and it makes you look like you're coming in the UK. So they go, oh hey.
To get back to Netflix, so why can't we do it to get?
You got it. You got it. I get to BBC and I see Monty Don gardening. Yes.
Monty Don. Last question for you from the chat room.
Yes.
Someone wants to know what the headset is.
It's a Plantronics. What is it? What's the brand? I have to look at the brand. Hold on.
So it's a Plantronics, guys.
Plantronics. It's officially made. I was having problems, as you know, as an MVP. You have a lot of link meetings, and I was having issues with my wired headset, and so I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to get one that's officially Link 2013 certified.
Okay.
So that's it, and I'll get you the model. And we'll put them in the show notes.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, thank you very much for hanging out in the chat room. Susan, as always, it has been a pleasure. We'll get you out here more and more. We'd love to hear. We love the rants. We love the head-spinning technology that you fling at us left and right. And maybe if I can get you on a little more frequently, we could. It won't be quite as crazy, and we can spend some more time with each other. So.
Sounds good.
All right, Jim Collison, get better soon. We're going to see you back here next week, Home Server Show. Hey, if you have not signed up for the meetup, holy cow, what a great week it was for me in procuring stuff for our meetup. You've got to make it to this meetup. If you're anywhere near, you must. Great. We're going to have great speakers. We're going to have great giveaways. We're going to have great opportunities for you to come to Fry's with us, to come to the Microsoft store with us, and meet and greet.
Fry's and the Microsoft store?
It's going to be geek overload. Only thing we need is a Micro Center, and people would just fall over from the amount of geekness.
And just remember, when you stop in the doorway of Fry's, stop for a moment right as the door's open and breathe in.
And breathe in.
And breathe in the smell of electronics.
The smell of electronics.
Yes.
Circuit boards and.
You got it.
It just smells like Hong Kong and Kowloon. That's just what it smells
got
like.
It.
All right.
And don't wear a white shirt.
Don't wear a white shirt.
Yes.
Because they'll think you work there.
Exactly.
It's like wearing a red shirt to Target. Don't do it.
Yep.
White shirt and a tie. Don't do it.
Yes.
All right. Susan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you guys next week. Bye-bye.